Hi everyone, my name is Bindu. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about variables in Power BI. This variables is a very important topic and very frequently asked interview question as well. So without any delay, let's get started. Before going into the demo part, let's first understand the main uses of these variables. On a high level, when you use these variables, you can increase the readability of the calculation. You'll have a lot of calculations in Power BI report. You use them for calculating measures, you use them for creating the calculated columns. So you'll have a lot of calculations in a report. So when you use the variables, you can improve the readability of the calculation. So that's one point. And the next point is variables help in debugging the calculations. Okay, so when you have a very big query, you'll not be able to find the error that easily. But when you have variables in them, it gets a little easier to debug, right? That's the second point. And the third point is it reduces the complexity. So you're making a big query into a smaller one. You're making a big calculation into a smaller one. That means you're reducing the complexity of the calculation. So that's the third point. That's the third use of variable. And last but not the least is these variables improve the performance of the calculation, improves the performance of the report at least by 30-40%, okay, based on the number of variables you use. So basically we talked about 4 uses of the variables. The first one, it improves the readability of the calculation. The second point, it helps in debugging the calculation. Third point, it reduces the complexity. And the fourth point is it improves the performance of the report. So these are the major points about the variables. And now let's get into the demo and practically see about all these 4 points. Let's get started.
If you look at my screen here, this is a blank Power BI report. In this report, to demonstrate this variables, I want to create a simple measure. Okay, I want to calculate sales percentage growth year over year. Okay, and I have a formula for that. So you don't have to think about the formula when creating measures. The business in real world, the business will give you the formula and you use that formula to create the measure. So this is the sales year over year growth percent. Okay, so this is the formula for that. And what we are doing here is you are subtracting total sales minus sales of previous year, and then you are dividing you are dividing this total sale minus previous year sale with previous year sale. Okay, so this part, this calculate total sale parallel period, this part, it gives you the sales for last year. It gives you sales for last year. So if you carefully look at this calculation, this part of the calculation is repeated. You are using the calculate this part twice. So the main uses of variables is to reduce the complexity, to improve the readability, right? So what we are going to do here is I am going to create a variable here. So to create a variable, to declare a variable, you use var. Okay, that's how you create a variable in DAX. Where I'll give the variable name as sales last year. Okay, and sales last year equal to, I will assign this value here. So sales last year will be, I'm calculating total sales of last year. Okay, this value is what I'm assigning to the variable sales last year. So once you create the variable, you return it. Okay, so once you create the variable, so here you have to say shift enter to go to next line. So once you create the variable, to use the variable you say return. Okay, and now totals, and now instead of all this, you just give sales last year. I'm copying this again and I'm replacing this part with sales last year, and that's all. I don't have to change anything else now. Okay, so here we created the variable sales last year. This part of the query is being used twice, so we assigned this calculation to a variable and used this variable twice instead of using this whole big calculation here. Now what happened is we reduced the complexity, we increased the readability. So now the readability, if you look at this calculation, the readability improved because you know this is a variable and you go to the variable here and look at it. If you have this whole thing, this whole calculation here, the complexity would be huge and it would be really difficult to read it. And one more use of this variables is it makes debugging easier. So now it is easy to read. If you have any errors, any syntax errors, you can easily find it out. If you have all this big calculation, it becomes so clumsy, and debugging the syntax, it would be a little tough. Okay, because it's a small measure, even though you don't have a variable, it would be fine. We can somehow debug it. But if it's a very big measure, if it's a very huge calculation, then it becomes very, very difficult to debug that calculation if it has any syntax error. And last but not the least, the performance. Here you are just calculating this sales of last year just once in this measure. But when you have this calculation repeated twice here and here, then you would have calculated the previous year total sales twice. That means it would have an impact in the performance as well. Because now we are just calculating it once instead of twice, we have reduced the performance by 50%, right? Which is a good thing. So initially while starting the video, we talked about 4 points. One is improving readability, reducing complexity, making the debugging easier, and improving the performance. So in this example, we covered all these 4 points. So this is about variables in Power BI.
I hope you liked this video. If you really liked it, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do subscribe, and see you in the next video. Thank you.